Thanks for being here with us today. We really are grateful to have you. I know you've shared your testimony publicly before, but I also know that it's still hard to be in a space of people that you don't know and to share candidly as you do and vulnerably as you do. So thank you so much. Go ahead and take it away. I'll give you a few minutes to share, and then I'll ask you a couple follow-up questions.
Thanks, Noah.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you, beloved, for allowing me to come and share my story. To me, this is actually an honor to do this because my story is not an easy one. I walk into a room and say that guys who know me, I'm actually infamous. I'm not famous. I don't consider my story something that's celebrated in the sense of where I've been and what I did. So I'll start off by sharing that I grew up in West Michigan. I grew up in Hudsonville, went to a Christian school, grew up in a Christian family, but at an early age, started looking up images of women, started using those, and that I struggled with multiple things. There were things I did that I am not proud of, that I harmed people in that space when I was a teenager. Went to a Christian university, Cedarville College. So I have like Paul always talks about having, he's got his pedigree, I have that pedigree. And in the end, I don't consider it worth anything because it didn't mean anything. I was trying to strive all this stuff on my own. But then I went to Cedarville. I had a moment of space where I didn't struggle as much because I had a community. And I didn't realize how that was going to be part of the story. But then later on, I went back into it and it got worse. And then I thought, well, I'll get married someday. This will take care of my struggle with looking at images, with using women to try to medicate what was going on in my life. Not that I understood that at the time. And so I got married, and I had about a 6-month reprieve. And then my wife had to work, so I didn't see her a lot, and then it actually got worse. And it didn't just stay with me looking at images on the internet. I grew up in the generation that we got to explore the internet before everybody else did. I'm 46 years old, so, and it got worse. And then it went from being in that space to when my wife was pregnant with our second child, I stepped out of our marriage. I used women that believed that the only option they had was to be a prostitute. And so I lived in that space for 8 years, hating myself. Every day, every time I swear it off, I say, this is the last time I'm going to do this. I have a beautiful wife at home. Why am I doing this? And the next thing I know, I was right back into it. And then in 2014, the roof collapsed in our home from snow. If you remember 2014 here in Grand Rapids area, that was one of the worst snowfalls we've had in memory, second highest snowfall. On February 17th, the roof collapsed in my house. So over the next course of the next year, my family ended up moving 6 times in 1 year. Ended up going and fighting a lawsuit with our insurance company because they didn't want to fix our home. They wanted just to leave us. And in that time, I remember we were living in a cottage that the insurance company was paying, and I'm like, we're going through stress after stress, and I'm struggling in my addiction. And I'm like, God, where the F are you? And actually sitting right here, right now, he said, because I was thinking through this, he's like, you remember when you said that to me? He goes, I was right there. I had my hand on your right shoulder. And I'm like, you were, weren't you? But I didn't know it at the time where he was because I was so stuck, so blinded, so caught up in where I was in pain and using something to deaden the pain. But it didn't just deaden the pain, it deadened everything. In this midst of this, I didn't realize that as much as I wanted to die, my wife was waiting for me to die because she was miserable. She couldn't stand the man I was, how I was acting, how I was treating her, how I was treating the kids. Because anger was always there. It was just a moment and a breath away. Because I was angry with myself, and the only way I knew how to deal with it was with my shame, was contempt for myself and contempt for others. My acting out was contempt for myself. I didn't care about the people I was with, and I didn't want them to care about me because I didn't think I was worth it. And then in August of 2014, my wife finally asked me again, and this I say again because she asked me multiple times, have you ever been with a prostitute? And this time, I could share partial truth. Yes, but it was only this. And it was only so many times. And we went through a season where I got separated. I lost everything. I thought I lost everything in my life. And then, because I was at the very bottom and I had nowhere to go, I was like, all right, Jesus, where are you? I got the help I needed. I learned that I needed community, that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but it's community. So I did everything that I was supposed to do. I had people who spoke into my life. I got into counseling. I got into groups. I got into everything I needed to do and just said, all right, Jesus, you show me what I need to do. And Jesus started showing up in my life. He started showing me where he was at and all the pain I was in. And I realized all the pain I was in because I'm one in 6 men that they talk about in the statistics. I'd been sexually abused as a child and didn't remember. was able to unpack the abuse I had suffered. Was able to unpack when I was acting out. And Jesus was like, do you remember when you were in that room with that woman? And he showed me. He's standing at the side of the bed crying. He's like, I'm right here. Come to me with your pain. You don't need to go to her. And so that's what I did. And he helped me unpack all the trauma, all the pain, all the suffering, all the religious abuse I'd also suffered growing up in the Baptist church. And because as much as those people wanted to serve Jesus, they didn't understand some concepts about how Jesus is with us, that we don't have to be performing monkeys for him. He wants our hearts. He's not looking for sacrifices, he's looking for us. When he has us, then we actually are able to offer ourselves as a sacrifice to him. And it's a joy and it's a privilege, it's a pleasure, and it's not hard. And so since that journey, I've been helping others do the same thing because that's what he's called me into. That's why I'm here today. So thanks for letting me share, Noah.
Thank you so much, Seth. So my first question is, someone could be sitting here listening and going, why would you share that publicly? You know, like someone might think, I've done some embarrassing things or some shameful things. I would never share that publicly. And you just shared, you know, a pretty big story. Why would you share that? Why are you sharing this?
Well, one reason is because literally I was driving up Hull down the road here, you know, just up Hull, going up the big hill, heading towards Eastern. And everything came in shock. My brother had just found out. I heard there was all these rumors in the town I grew up about what I'd done. Only one thing was true out of all the rumors. I remember Jesus telling me, he said, Seth, your reputation is my reputation. Not that my reputation plays a role on him. No, he was giving me his reputation. So I have his reputation. So I'm not sitting here in a space of shame. I'm sitting here in a space where I know that my reputation's been given to me by Jesus Christ. I am defined by him and no one else. And so I can sit behind this microphone, share my story and say, what I did does not define me. Jesus does.
Amen. And what advice would you give someone who's struggling with any addiction / bad habit, and they're just in it alone? They're where you were in that space of maybe hating themselves, maybe feeling bad about what they're doing, but just they keep going back to it, and that cycle just keeps repeating. What advice would you give them?
Share with someone who you know will love you, who you feel safe. I know Noah's one of those people. You know, Noah and I do life. We talk on the phone, we share. He knows my story, I know his. Like, there's others in this room I know who you could share it with, but share it with someone. Don't live in the darkness. Deeds done in the darkness are dark, but when those deeds are done and then you share them and you expose them to the light, God makes them light. I'm standing here today because God has taken my deeds. Jesus has made my deeds light. He has shined the light on them. They become light. I share my story. People will go, what? I'm like, yes, it's Jesus. He does that. I remember reading that, and I think it was Ephesians 5, I think 12 and 13. It was that I'm kind of, paraphrasing that verse, and I was in shock. How does that happen? How does that happen? But Jesus does it. By the way, I'm still married. My wife and I are in a better relationship we've ever been. 22 years we'll be celebrating this coming year. If I can stand here and share this with you and tell you Jesus can change you, he can change you. I know he can. That's why I'm sharing this.
Thank you, Seth.
You're welcome. Thanks, Noah.